Even if you're not paying close attention to the allegations against Sean Diddy Combs, there may be one thing that you've seen about him in the past year, and that's this video that aired on CNN.
New surveillance footage obtained exclusively by CNN appears to corroborate some of the allegations of abuse against music mogul Sean Diddy Combs. The video, captured on multiple cameras, shows Combs assaulting his then-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, in a hallway at a Los Angeles hotel in March 2016.
The publication of this video last May by CNN felt like one of those turning points for Combs. Before that, civil lawsuits alleging violence and sexual assault had already been filed against him, including by the woman in that video, his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. He denied all of those claims, but the video showed Combs being violent, and it was shocking to see. Months later, he was arrested for racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs is on trial now, and he's pleaded not guilty. This video is a key piece of evidence in his federal trial in New York. Prosecutors are claiming the video illustrates why Combs is guilty. From the newsroom of The Washington Post, this is Post Reports. I'm Elahe Izadi. It's Friday, June 6th. We're continuing our coverage of the trial of music mogul Sean Combs, also known as Diddy, Puff Daddy. We'll be bringing you these episodes most Fridays, and we should note we're going to be discussing sex, drugs, and violence in this coverage. Today, I'm talking with style reporter Anne Brannigan about what was going on behind the scenes of this 2016 hotel surveillance video. And we get into the testimony from another one of Combs' alleged victims, who's using the pseudonym Jane. And you and we have talked about this hotel surveillance video before. It's graphic and appears to show Combs kicking and dragging Cassie Ventura many times in what looks like a hotel hallway. But the physical assault we see on camera is all we really knew about this incident before trial. We didn't have any of the surrounding context, the backstory to what was going on around this video. So can you tell me what witnesses have said about that?
Right. So we learned a lot about the life of this video and what was going on around that time. So it was introduced very early on, the first week of the prosecution presenting its case. And we had Cassie Ventura actually speak to it. And one of the things that she shared was that there was actually a freak-off happening right before this video was taken.
And we should remind people that freak-offs were these sex parties that have been central to the trial.
Exactly. So sex parties, typically involving just one male escort, but that could last for days and that were fueled by a lot of drug use, right? So what she said about this incident was that she was actually trying to escape. She was trying to leave a freak-off early. And that's when Combs chased her down and attacked her. And the thing that the prosecution really wanted to stress in this story is that Ventura said that it's perhaps the only time she ever successfully left a freak-off early.
Well, successfully, but I guess I wonder if that's even true because the video appears to show him attacking her and kind of trying to drag her back.
Exactly. So the connection that the prosecution wants jurors to make here is that this is what would happen to Cassie if she tried to disobey Combs' wishes, if she tried to leave these events early, which is really key to their sex trafficking claim and their claims that Ventura, through a manner of ways, was forced and coerced to participate in these events.
Mm-hmm. And I know one of the witnesses who took the stand this week was an officer who worked at the Intercontinental Hotel where this assault took place. Who was he and what did he have to say about the incident?
So we heard from a man named Eddie Garcia, and he used to work, he was a sort of security contractor at the hotel at around that time. And what he testified was that Sean Combs and an assistant, after this incident happened, reached out to him multiple times to try to get that hotel footage. So what Garcia said on the stand was that, shortly after this happened, Sean Combs's chief of staff, a woman named Christina Karam, called him, requested to see the video, get the video. Eddie Garcia says, no, that can't happen. I can only turn it over to you with a subpoena. And then Combs himself calls Garcia multiple times on his cell phone. And Garcia described Combs as being very nice, very charming. He calls him Eddie, my angel. Combs is like, I know you're a good guy. I know you want to help. I know you can help me. And importantly here, that I'll take care of you if you help me, which Garcia said he understood to be that he was offering money.
So are prosecutors trying to say that Combs tried to bribe him?
Yes, although they're not using the word bribe because they have to prove that it was a bribe, right? So what Garcia attested to, what he said on the stand earlier this week, was that he actually meets Combs in a building a couple days after the incident happens. And Combs gives him $100,000 in a brown paper bag in exchange for a USB copy of that hotel surveillance footage. Now, he also makes him sign 2 contracts. One is a contract that stipulates this is the only copy of the video, there's no third party that was shown this, and there's no backup. And then there's another contract that he signs, which is essentially an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement.
How did the defense question Garcia?
It was actually pretty light. And, the defense has really been, taking their liberties, as is their right, to cross-examine a lot of witnesses for a lengthy amount of time. That was not the case with Garcia. In fact, the only thing that they pointed to was a part of one of the contracts that said that Garcia could cooperate with law enforcement. Now, the significance of that is that could be enough to say, well, this wasn't bribery because he could go to law enforcement. So really trying to muddy sort of the waters there.
So then, Anne, I guess my question is, how did CNN many years later get their hands on this video if what is being described on the stand is this transaction to prevent this video from becoming public? How did CNN get their hands on it?
So CNN has not confirmed and probably will not confirm exactly how they got their hands on this video. So the CNN video, it turns out, is actually a video of a video. However, we do know, and we know this from early testimony in the trial, is that there actually was another video that was taken unbeknownst to Garcia or to Combs or to any of the people involved in that payoff. And that was from the hotel security officer who actually responded to the incident on that day.
And remind me who that was and what he said about that day.
So Israel Flores, he's now a police officer, but back in 2016, he worked at the Intercontinental Hotel, and he was pretty high up on the chain in terms of working security there. And so what he said when he was on the stand was that he responded to this incident. He saw, Ventura being really distressed. He said that he followed Combs into the hotel room to try to calm him down. He was very irate. But at a certain point, he basically brandishes this big wad of cash. And Flores took that to be a bribe offer, which he refused. He didn't take that money. Now, the defense in their cross-examination tried to insinuate that maybe that money was to pay for damages to the hotel room, since Flores did tell Combs that the damage to the hotel he would have to pay for, and he later sort of escorts Ventura down, asks her if she wants to go to the police. She says she doesn't, but he writes most of this stuff down in his incident report. And he also reviews the security footage of that time, and he saw that altercation that we've now all seen. Mm-hmm. So he writes the incident report, he looks at that video, and he said that days later, he could no longer retrieve that hotel security footage. But, and this is such a human detail to me, so it's stuck out since I've heard it. As he's watching this video, he takes out his phone and records the security footage that's playing on the hotel monitor. And he does this not because he wants to do something nefarious. It's not because he wants to report a crime. He does this because he wants to go home and show his wife. And what he said on the stand was, she wouldn't believe me. So here's a video.
So essentially, he has recorded a video of this video. And, we should say this happened many years ago. And then, CNN gets their hands on a version of this surveillance video. But we can't say for certain it is the one that Flores took, but it looks pretty similar.
Yes, it looks very similar indeed. In the trial, what we saw was that footage was corrected by some government experts so that it is as close as possible to the original footage that was taken on those surveillance cameras.
And why do you think this surveillance footage is so important to the government's case? What are they saying this demonstrates?
So it goes to a couple really big charges here. It goes to the racketeering charge, because what they're establishing here is who is in this enterprise, right, that is conspiring to cover up crimes or commit them. And so we have this level of enterprise here because Combs's chief of staff is involved, right? And, security is also involved witnessing this. There's also this element of this effort to conceal violence and abuse. We have an alleged bribery. We have this willingness to conceal Combs's crimes. And we're seeing the lengths that Combs and his inner circle would go to preserve his power, status, and reputation. So that all falls under that racketeering conspiracy umbrella. And then with regard to sex trafficking, that's where the content of the video is also really important, because it shows an incredible use of force on Cassie, who is not fighting back. And, the context here that this was the result of her not wanting to finish a freak-off. So it goes to that force and coercion that is really, really crucial and that the government must establish in order to prove sex trafficking.
And I remember at the start of this series that we're doing, these conversations about the Diddy trial, you said that before the trial, the defense was saying that the video had been manipulated and they didn't even want this to be introduced as evidence. So now that it is in this trial, what have they been saying about the video now?
So what they were saying was that because it was a cell phone video of a video, that the images were a bit distorted. There was some pixelation, so they questioned sort of why certain things were pixelated. Noted that the speed could seem off, so the events appeared faster than they were actually happening sort of in real life, that Combs might have appeared bigger because of that recording of a recording element. But the way that they're responding to it now is, they're not denying, and they have not denied ever, that the violence shown on that video is real. The way they're characterizing it is that it's, in their words, a sad glimpse into a decade-long consensual relationship, and that it shows a domestic dispute, but that in and of itself, it is not evidence of sex trafficking.
I see. And so then how did the government try to argue against that the video was not manipulated?
So during the trial, they have not shown the version that we saw on CNN of that video of a video. What they showed during trial was a corrected video that removes the distortions that were a result of the cell phone recording a hotel monitor. And they did this through a forensic audio and video editor named Frank Piazza. He reviewed that footage and corrected the video so that it was as close as possible to what the hotel surveillance footage would have been. And also, sort of made sure that there weren't any other manipulations, that it was not altered, that there were no signs of tampering. He basically gives it a clean bill of health in that regard. And by the way, Piazza also reviewed a lot of those freak-off videos, essentially doing the same thing, making sure that nothing was manipulated, deleted, and really being very meticulous about the order in which things happened, about when something happened, how it happened. The side effect of that is that this video of Combs assaulting Cassie gets played again and again and again and again. And I'm very curious what effect that had on the jury at this point.
Like whether it was played so much that it's wasn't as shocking or played so much that it sears into their brains.
Right. Either scenario could be possible.
After the break, we'll hear from Anne about more shocking testimony. This time from another ex-girlfriend of Combs who says she was sex trafficked. We'll be right back. And now I want to turn to a key witness this week who is another one of Combs's alleged victims. She's testifying under the pseudonym Jane, and she started testifying on Thursday afternoon. What can you say about who she is?
So what we know about Jane is that she started dating Combs in 2020, and they dated for a while, right up until actually around the time that he was arrested last year. So what I think is really important here about Jane, and what the government finds really important about Jane, is how much her story kind of tracks with Cassie Ventura's account of what happened in her relationship with Combs and these sex trafficking allegations that she's made against him. So, like Ventura, Jane described, falling in love with Combs, but that there were dynamics that existed within their relationship that dramatically changed over time. So, frequent drug use. She said that every time she and Combs had sex, he would give her ecstasy or some sort of drugs. He introduced this concept of voyeurism, so having another male partner there. And she says that she made very clear over the course of their relationship that she didn't want to do these things, and said she even said it in writing, but that these things would happen anyway, right? She described feeling obligated to, quote, perform these freak-offs for him, which in their relationship they referred to as hotel nights, that she felt obligated to perform because of the amount of financial control he held over her as the course of their relationship went on.
Also, it's just so shocking to hear about this testimony given the timeline, because he was being investigated, but also there were all these lawsuits already coming out too.
Exactly, yes.
So why do prosecutors want to protect her identity?
So she's going to be giving really graphic testimony, right? So, she is going to be alleging that she's a victim of a sex crime.
Mm-hmm.
And in those cases, we do see the legal system protecting the identities of people who are alleged victims of sexual crimes.
And what have Combs's lawyers said about Jane's allegations and testimony?
So from opening statements, I think that we can suppose that they're going to take a very similar track that they took with Ventura, which is painting their relationship as unconventional, but ultimately consensual. And they're going to stress the fact that, they believe Jane enjoyed these events and expressed enjoyment of these events. And this is still to be seen how they do this, but something that they've done with Ventura and with other witnesses is to try to question the motive here of why these people are coming forward and alleging these things against Combs.
I am curious how the legal system and this court is trying to protect the identity of Jane and other anonymous testimony. And, this is a high-profile case, and Jane is the second person we've seen testify under a pseudonym. The first person was Mia, who testified last week and also into this week. And as a reminder, she's Combs's former assistant, and she alleged that Combs sexually assaulted her several times. So how did that go for Mia? Was the court able to keep her identity a secret?
So I think the court is still trying to figure this out. So with regard to Mia, they did put protections in place. People who were spectators and press weren't allowed to describe what she looks like. So we described, say, her demeanor on the stand, say if she was crying or hanging her head, and we might describe what she's wearing, but we couldn't describe anything that could be identifying. So they did put some protections in place. No pictures or sketches of Mia could be released. Our listeners might have seen those sketches that just show, this blank face, right? That was a reflection of that court order. But despite these instructions, her identity was very quickly revealed online by a YouTuber and another media outlet. And there was also this incident during which the defense accidentally played a video of her during their cross. They were submitting it as evidence. And so what needed to happen was that her face needed to be blurred or, that these things that can't identify her are in some way redacted. That did not happen. And so there was this very clear picture of her that was shown and entered into evidence. I should also add here that during testimony, there were also identifying details about her that came out. So it did put people in an awkward position because she did share, say, the exact title she held at one of Combs's companies. They did talk about a project that she pitched. And so people were very easily able to find out who she was just based on those details that came up in testimony.
I'm wondering, given what happened in the courtroom and that some people were able to piece together her identity, have there been any additional instructions or things done to help protect the identity of Jane?
The instructions not to report on her likeness, those are the same as Mia, but there's an extra level here where the exhibits, the evidence that's being shown is typically also shown to the gallery and to spectators and to the press room. That will no longer be shown. And they said it's because, they have a lot of evidence that has her name on it and the name of her child, and that they simply did not have enough time to redact all of that information appropriately.
So the jury will see it, but everyone else, for the most part, won't.
That's right.
And what can we expect from the rest of Jane's testimony?
So this is going to be really, really big testimony. And the thing to pay attention to here is that she will describe an event that happened in June 2024, so just last year, that Assistant U.S. Attorney Maureen Comey said is, quote, one of the clearest cut incidents of sex trafficking. This will be graphic testimony, and we do know that video from these freak-offs involving her will be played for the jury in some form. So it may just be the audio. They may see the video and everybody else doesn't see it, but that will also be something that's going to be brought forward.
And before you go, there were a couple of other things I just wanted to quickly ask you about. First, I saw that the judge in this case issued a warning to Sean Combs inside the courtroom. Can you tell me about that?
So this was a moment, but he actually calls out Sean Combs's lead counsel, Mark Agnifilo, and he warns Mark Agnifilo that his client could be removed over his interactions or his attempted interactions with the jury. So what happened Thursday morning was that during parts of the cross-examination, Combs was apparently looking over at the jury, nodding his head vigorously to certain parts that were, favorable to him. And this is explicitly not allowed, and the judge has said this multiple times, that there is to be no interaction at all between the parties, so Combs, his lawyers, the government lawyers, and jurors. And this is to protect against any allegations of anything improper happening. And so the judge was incredibly stern in his warning. He told Agnifilo that this behavior was absolutely unacceptable and that if it happens again, and he said even once, he would consider excluding Combs from the courtroom.
Wow.
So he told Agnifilo to talk to Combs and make sure everyone understands it because he really means it.
Yeah. And then there was one other thing. Last week, President Donald Trump was asked by a reporter if he would consider pardoning Combs should Combs be convicted. And he basically said, well, no one has asked me, but, he would have to look into it.
I don't know. I would certainly look at the facts. If I think somebody was mistreated, whether they like me or don't like me, it wouldn't have any impact on me.
Can Trump pardon Combs if he's convicted?
So the short answer is yes. The slightly longer answer is yes, absolutely. Presidents can pardon for any federal offense, and Combs is being tried for federal crimes. So that is certainly possible. I will note that to me, his answer was a little bit non-committal. Now, some people have already taken issue with this, most notably rapper 50 Cent, who has had a long-time feud with Combs. And 50 Cent said on his Instagram, because where else would you say this?
Right.
He said that he would try to dissuade Trump from doing such a thing.
Well, Anne, thanks so much for making time, and talk to you next week.
Talk to you soon, Elahe. Take care.
Anne Brannigan is a reporter for the style section of The Post. Later on Friday, prosecutors continued to ask Jane about the freak-offs, or hotel nights, she described having with Combs. Prosecutors played a video of one of those encounters for the jurors and the attorneys. The rest of the court and media could only hear the audio, and just to say, it was graphic. They could hear Combs appearing to demand that Jane have sex with a male escort without a condom. As the video played in the courtroom, Jane broke down in tears while on the stand. That's it for Post Reports. Thanks for listening. Today's show was produced by Sabby Robinson, who also contributed reporting from New York. It was edited by Rena Flores with help from Ariel Plotnick and mixed by Sean Carter. Thanks to Carla Spardos. If you love the show, help other people discover it by leaving a rating on Spotify or a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. We really appreciate it. Our team includes Martine Powers, Colby Ikowitz, Maggie Penman, Ted Muldoon, Lucy Perkins, Alana Gordon, Ariel Plotnick, Rennie Svirnovsky, Emma Talkoff, Peter Bresnan, Laura Benshoff, and Renita Jablonski. I'm Elahe Izadi. We'll be back tomorrow with more stories from the Washington Post.